Okay, so welcome everyone who is watching this back. My name is Grace, and we are getting started with our program tonight. Like I said, I'm going to start off by just explaining what CVC is and what we do. I would also love to see from you all if anybody has ever heard of CVC. You can raise your hand or throw up in the chat if you've ever heard of us before. And if not, no worries, because I'm going to tell you all about us. Okay, so it looks like I can do some explaining of what we are and what we do at Crime Victim Center. We are Chester County's victim service agency. And so we help folks who are impacted by crime, or more broadly, just impacted by harm. We help people all over Chester County. And so of course that includes you all. And some of the things we do are very focused on helping victims and supporting them and being their go-to person. So that might look like going to the police station or to the hospital with someone who's been harmed. And we have folks who are advocates who go to court with people. And so it's a really great thing because I'm sure, as all of you can imagine, and hopefully have not had to experience, but you might have, going through those things can be really stressful. And a lot of folks at police, court, or the hospital are working to do their job, but a lot of times they need to focus on getting you healthy or trying to get you justice. And so us at CVC are just there to look out for how the victim is doing, their well-being, and their needs. So that's one thing we do. We also offer free counseling to folks, and not just people who have been harmed themselves, but family members, friends, or partners of people who've been impacted by harm or crime. And so that's another great thing we do. And also we do what my job is, which is education. So I get to go all around the county to schools, sometimes online, sometimes in person. Soon we have some in-person things, but of course we love online as well. So we get to talk to parents, community members, staff, teachers, educators, all types of people about preventing harm before it happens. So my job is really to try and prevent us from ever having to have any clients in the future, which is a pretty big task. And so that's why I'm so thankful that you all are here, because you're joining me in this prevention work. And I will explain a little bit about why social and emotional learning is prevention work, but we'll get to that in a little bit. What I want you to know about CVC is that we are a constant resource for all of you as parents, as individuals, and your kids, your family, anyone you know could benefit from our services if they ever need to. And we're totally free and we're totally confidential. And so folks can call our hotline and choose to be anonymous, as long as we are not talking about harm of a child. Right? When we think that a child is in danger, we may have to report it, as a lot of also teachers at Unionville are also mandated reporters. So we are that as well. But you're always welcome to call our hotline. It's always free and it's always 24/7. And it's someone like me on the other end. I know before this job, I didn't really understand how hotlines worked, and I kind of found them a little scary. But now that I know that it's people just like me and my friends and my coworkers who are working the hotline at CVC. So I just want to leave you with that today, that resource, and information will be at the end with my email. So you can write that down later. You don't have to worry about it now. So are there any questions about CVC or our services before we move on? I'll leave some space and feel free, again, type them in the chat or come off mute, whatever you would like. And thank you, Michelle, for your kind comment. Yeah, I work with some pretty cool people who do pretty cool stuff, so I appreciate that.
Tireless workers. I mean, your company, your organization will, anything I need, they'll make it work. You want a presentation on SEL, Michelle? Sure, we'll make a presentation for you on SEL. Like, they're fabulous. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, and feel free to ask them throughout this program, I'll try and keep an eye on the chat and get to them as they pop up. But first, I just want to move on to a bit of an icebreaker, or just kind of getting to know you all. I would love if folks could just introduce yourself, let me know your name, maybe like the age of your children or what grade they're in. And the big question of today is, how are you feeling? So I will go first. My name is Grace. I don't have any kids. And so that's a disclaimer for today's program. I'm not a parent myself, but hopefully I will show you that I've done a lot of work with SEL. And so I should be able to share with you some new tips and tricks. But I am feeling a bit overwhelmed, but also optimistic. A lot of stuff going on, has a lot of us feeling overwhelmed. So if you are also feeling that, I am with you, but I'm also feeling optimistic, especially doing stuff like this gets me excited and inspired. So feel free to add in the chat or unmute. Who are you and how are you feeling today? And if you have kids, what grade are they in? And it usually takes a second for folks to add into the chat, and then they'll all flood in at once. So take your time.
I will talk. Michelle Lafferty here, principal at Unionville Elementary. I think hopefully everyone knows me at least a little bit by now. I actually have a child who just started kindergarten, so very exciting. And lots of firsts. Got a loose tooth coming and everything. So, but I'm always, looking for different strategies to help him. And the most important thing I've always learned is just to be happy. We're going to have a great day today, buddy. It's going to be a great day. And your enthusiasm will spark their enthusiasm. And then they go into the day super happy. And so I try to make sure at night I have everything prepped. Lunch is done, outfits ready, so that in the morning it's stress-free and we're just happy.
Awesome. And how are you feeling today, Michelle?
I'm feeling very good. Thank you. Very happy.
Awesome. Thank you.
If I could jump in, John O'Brien here with my wife, Kim. We have 3 kids, including a second grader at Unionville Elementary who is doing very well there. Thank you.
Extremely.
Staff and faculty. The feeling good today, although storms, sometimes bring in like pressure changes and things. But we're enjoying the transition from summer to school. Seems like it's good. So crossing our fingers as activities ramp up and all that.
Awesome.
I'm Kim, and I love stuff like this. I just feel like I'm a sponge, just like ready to soak it all up, because those preventive measures, preventive things have already been a huge blessing in our family. Things from school, things from outside of school, just all kinds of things that have really helped us, right, as parents.
Great. Thank you both.
Thank you so much for doing this. I love it.
Yeah, welcome. And Renee, I see you have your hand raised if you wanted to share as well.
Hello?
Hey, we can see you.
Okay, good. I can't see me. Hi, my name is Renee. I have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I'm feeling excited to talk about cell learning. It's kind of like a buzzword now that we're hearing about, and I'm hoping that it becomes more of a part of the conversation in our school district. And I also think that we worked together inadvertently. I've never met you in person, but I worked at DHS many years ago, and I used to refer people to you, and I think we've had many phone conversations. So it's nice.
Awesome. Welcome. Great. And we have a lot of folks in the chat, so I'll read some of them off. Welcome, Pia. And let's see, we have Mallory and Caroline, a lot of a lot of different ages here. Let's see. Charlie's feeling overwhelmed as well. Thank you for not joining me in that, but it's nice to know that other folks are with you. Welcome Stacy and Phil and Pia, who's excited, and Michelle, who's feeling lucky. Antoinette, who's feeling great and blessed. Wonderful. Awesome. Anybody else want to share before we move on? Okay. So welcome everyone, however you are feeling today, wherever you are coming from, you're welcome here. And you will see why I'm asking you how you're feeling, because we are gonna get into some of those practices today, because that's kind of why we're here. And so as Renee mentioned, SEL is absolutely a buzzword. It's something going around a lot. And so hopefully today I'm able to expand on what you might already know. If you know not a whole lot, that's great too, because hopefully you'll take away some new ideas. And welcome Laurie and Doug, feeling excited and lost at times. Thank you for sharing that. I'm with you, and I'm sure many parents in this group are as well. Okay, so I wanted to offer a little agenda so that you have a good idea of what we're going to get into today. Again, I'm going to try and end around 7:30, but I have another half hour to hang out if folks just want to ask questions or chat about stuff. But today we're going to talk about what is social and emotional learning. I am going to call it SEL a lot today because it's just a whole lot easier. But we're talking about social and emotional learning. We're going to talk about why it's important, and specifically why it's important for parents to bring in to their home lives. And we're going to talk about how parents can support that at home. So we'll talk a little bit about different strategies. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm not a parent myself, and so I'm super excited to also gain some knowledge from you all and hear what you all might do, what might work for you. And so we can share some knowledge together. Also, we love to start our programs with community agreements, just something to set the stage. So, of course, we can all agree to respect the process. We are all in a different process, especially with SEL. It's a journey. So wherever you are with that is perfectly fine. Just respect that and know that it's an ongoing process. And we'll also respect each other. As you all mentioned, we are coming from different age groups, different ages of kids, different feelings with back to school and things like that. So we are going to be in community tonight. And of course, be open to learning. I'm going to be open to learning from you all, and I hope you're open to hopefully gathering some new knowledge from me as well. So that's our plan for tonight. And if that sounds good with you all, we're going to jump into what is SEL. And I'm actually going to show a video for this because an organization called CASTLE is a really big group that does social and emotional things. And I think that they have a video that helps explain it a little bit better than I could. So I'm going to stop sharing my video or my screen and reshare so that you all have sound. Alrighty. And if y'all could just give me a thumbs up when I play it so that you can let me know if you hear it or not, and we'll be good to go.
Think about the young people in your lives and all the different places where they're learning about themselves, how to relate to others, and work together on goals. How can we intentionally create learning experiences that will help all young people develop and maintain positive relationships, become lifelong learners, and contribute to a more caring, just world? Educators, researchers, community members, families, and the students themselves agree what we need is social and emotional learning, or SEL. SEL is the process through which young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that help us to understand ourselves, connect with others, achieve our goals, and support our communities. We all need opportunities to learn and engage in environments where we feel safe, valued, and a sense of belonging. So how does SEL help schools, families, and communities work together so that all young people have these kinds of learning experiences and achieve success in education, careers, and life? CASTLE's framework identifies 5 areas of competence that together help us develop a healthy sense of who we are, manage stress, understand the views of others, and work together to create schools and communities where everyone can grow their strengths and interests. Self-awareness is about how we think about ourselves and who we are. It includes understanding our culture, our thoughts, feelings, and what we believe we're capable of, and understanding how these things can influence our behaviors and beliefs. Self-management is the ability to manage those emotions, thoughts, and actions in different situations so that we can achieve individual and collective goals. This includes coping with stress and anxiety, persevering through challenges, and taking action to create positive change. Social awareness is how we understand others, how we learn to take different perspectives and empathize even with people who are different from us. It also includes understanding how the broader norms and systems around us influence how we develop and create a sense of belonging. Relationship skills are how we connect and engage effectively with others, and how we form lasting friendships and connections. This includes communicating clearly, solving problems together, managing conflict and disagreements, and standing up for ourselves and the rights of others. Lastly, responsible decision-making is how we put it all together to make caring and constructive choices. This includes thinking critically about consequences, analyzing the impact of our actions on ourselves and others, and identifying solutions that support our collective well-being. We continue to develop and practice SEL throughout our lives and can adapt and apply these competencies across different contexts and cultures. How we develop SEL is impacted by our environments, which is why we need to work together across classrooms, schools, families, and communities. In the classroom, students can be explicitly taught SEL skills and also can practice and apply SEL during core subjects, like discussing different perspectives in social studies and language arts, or collaboratively problem solving in science or math. SEL is most effective when supported by evidence-based programs and trusting relationships where students are treated as partners in their learning. Beyond the classroom, SEL can be intentionally promoted throughout the school experience, from the way they're greeted in the morning to how discipline practices are carried out and how adults themselves develop and model positive relationships and the SEL competencies. Outside of school, families and caregivers provide the earliest and ongoing learning and interactions for their children, so it's important that schools listen to and authentically partner with families to help shape SEL priorities and strategies for supporting their children. Similarly, when schools partner with community organizations to align their efforts, SEL opportunities can be strengthened and students benefit even more. With SEL, we can help create schools and learning spaces where all young people feel connected, inspired, engaged, and ready to contribute to the world around them.
Okay, so I like that video, but I know that it can feel like a lot of information, and it is. And so I'm going to break down some of those core competencies that they talked about and kind of put them in my own language to maybe make it a little bit more digestible. But as you saw, SEL is basically this framework that has been created to come into schools and into education to really take a holistic approach of learning and to really understand that kids also need their social and emotional needs met before they can learn math, reading, science. And so as parents, you have a very unique positioning, and we'll talk a little bit about that unique space that you hold. But SEL is not just in the classroom, but it grows outwards. So that is why you all are here today. All right, this video always gives me trouble. Okay, there we go. So SEL does a lot of things. It helps not just kids, but adults as well, everyone, develop healthy identities, grow their self-esteem and sense of self, helps us manage our emotions and achieve personal goals. It grows skills of feeling and showing empathy for other people, for different cultures, and for those we are in friendships, relationships with. It helps us maintain and establish supportive relationships in our lives and make responsible and caring decisions, and a whole lot of other stuff, but these are some of my favorites. So up here on the right is a graphic that Castle offers that I think is very helpful because it kind of shows us the positioning of what SEL is. And so again, this was really a framework created for the classroom for learners, but engages outwards beyond school. So as you can see, we have social emotional learning in the center, and then around are the 5 core competencies. You could also just think of these as the 5 main values or skills that SEL teaches. And then as you can see on the outer blue rings, we have the classroom, which is where some of this stuff is taught, as well as schools in general, right? So the classrooms can implement it, but schools supporting SEL makes it stronger. Then we have where you all are, which is families and caregivers, which play a very important part. And then more broadly, the community. So what I'm going to do now is take some time to go through each of these core competencies, the 5 main values, and just chat a little bit about what they are, put them into my own words, and see if you all have any questions or want to know anything further about these 5 competencies. Okay. So we'll start off with the ones in orange. That's self-awareness and self-management. I like to think of self-awareness as the ability to recognize your own feelings and figure out what's going on inside of us. So like in the beginning, when I asked you all how you were feeling, that is a practice of self-awareness, simply checking in with yourself and being able to figure out what's going on for you. In kids, it looks like being able to identify their feelings and also start to figure out what their needs are. So not only what am I feeling, but what do I need? And then self-management comes after that, right? So now that we know what we're feeling, how can we deal with that feeling? Self-management is all about dealing with these feelings. They might be big feelings like stress, anxiety, anger, fear. And so self-management is a lot about how to cope with these big feelings. This is a big part of why SEL is prevention work and why it prevents violence in our communities. Because when kids and people are able to recognize their emotions and then cope with them, we are much less likely to explode on others and hurt people, either by accident or on purpose. So these self-management skills are ways that we can learn to cool down and to manage our emotions in a healthy way. Then we have in the yellow, responsible decision-making, which is as simple as it sounds, right? Helping kids build up these skills of critical thinking, of understanding the impact that their decisions might have, and thinking through what they want in life and what choices they have to make in order to get there. And then the 2 in green, relationship skills. And I want you to think of relationships in a very broad sense, especially because we're talking about elementary school folks. We're talking about friendships. We're talking about best friendships. We're talking about classmates. We're talking about relationships with the school bus driver, with your teacher, with your principal, with your parents, your siblings, your family, all of those different relationships that we are all in and our kids are in. It's about building up those skills of how to relate to other people in a healthy way and to manage those relationships and keep good people in our lives. And lastly, social awareness, which is all about understanding that we exist in a very diverse, awesome world with a lot of different viewpoints and cultures and practices. So social awareness is helping us develop kids who are aware and celebrate the diversity in our world and also understand how to relate to other people in that way. how to stand up for each other, and create a more equitable community. So hopefully that added a little bit of context, but I want to open it up now. If folks have any questions about any of these core competencies, the big 5 values, now is the time. I'd love to hear any questions you might have. And hello to our friends joining us. I love your headband matching with your shirt. Okay. So it doesn't seem like we have any questions now, but again, you're more than welcome to ask them throughout or stick around till afterwards and we can chat a bit. But I want to remind you that in no way is this something that you have to tackle alone and all at once, right? This graphic shows us that SEL is a lot of things, but it's also a lot of people. We've got people in classrooms, people in schools, people at home, people who care for kids, and our whole community, okay? And so I want you to remember that these are all small acts that we all do together. Okay. So now we're going to get into why SEL is so important, and specifically why it's important for you all who are here tonight as parents. I know I talked a bit earlier about SEL being prevention and violence prevention, and I'll get to that. But first, I want to say that it's important because you all are already doing a lot of this stuff. I know that you're all doing this stuff. You might not call it SEL. You might. Either one is great, right? But as parents, you all are already doing a great job at helping your kids develop socially and emotionally. And so it's important to understand SEL so that we can make it more intentional in your lives and in our lives. Because when we name stuff and we make stuff intentional, it helps us make that thing stronger. But first off, I want to say you're already doing a great job at this. Another reason why it's so important at home is because home is such a huge learning space. And one reason why is because kids learn so much from adult modeling. And I know that you all probably already know this, whether you like it or not, kids will do the stuff that they see adults do. I'm sure that you all still do stuff that you saw your parents do. I know I do stuff that my mom does, and people are like, you're acting just like your mother. And I'm like, well, you know, that's what it is, right? And so it's so important for us to understand social and emotional learning so we can model it for the kids that we have at home. Also, home is hopefully and usually a safe space for kids to try these different skills that maybe they're learning in the classroom, and home feels like a safer space to start to navigate those skills of emotions. And it's also a big part of growing up is understanding what's going on with you emotionally. Another great thing is that Unionville Elementary cares about SEL. And it's something that your kids might already be learning at school. And as you all probably know, stuff that's learned at school can really be strengthened at home, right? I know I would always be reading at home with my parents, and my parents would try and go through math problems with me because it's nice to strengthen those skills that we learn at school, reinforce them at home. Same goes with SEL. Can also encourage healthy home relationships. Build conflict resolution skills. Many of you mentioned that you have more than one kid. And so this is a really great skill to create a more harmonious home where there are healthier conflicts, right? Where we can learn to apologize and to listen to each other. And lastly, it is prevention work. Like I mentioned earlier about the fact that if we know how to manage our feelings, we're less likely to explode them onto other people. SEL really does prevent harm and is known to prevent harm because When kids and people are better able to relate to others, have stronger skills of empathy, have relationship skills, have critical thinking skills, right? Thinking about how their actions might impact other people, the risk factor for them causing harm and for harm coming upon them is lessened. And so I really like to remember that SEL really does do cool work at creating healthier and safer communities. Okay. Are there any thoughts or questions about this? Thank you for the thumbs up. Love it. Okay. Alrighty. So now that I have laid a bit of groundwork, I want to spend a big chunk of time talking about what these practices might look like at home, and also hearing from you all if you've tried any of them and if they work for you in your home. And as we go through, I want to remind you that the best thing that you can do is take little bits and pieces that you think might fit into your home and work on those and build those, okay? You by no means have to add every single thing we talk about today into your lives. And so we are gonna go ahead and get going. And also we do have a wonderful question in the chat asking, how do these 5 core competencies fit with child development in elementary school years? This is a wonderful question. I'm going to go back to the 5 core competencies just so we can check them out. So what these things do when it comes to elementary school years is help give kids a foundation as they move forward in school, as they grow up, to really be able to navigate the world in a safe and healthy way. So as our kids are young and in elementary school, skills like self-awareness and self-management early on can really help prepare them as life might get a little bit more stressful. They might have some more decisions to make or things that they're doing independently. And so self-awareness helps them understand, where am I going? What do I like to do in school? What makes me feel good? What doesn't make me feel good? How am I feeling inside? And helps them identify what is going on with them. And self-management skills early on, as these kids are developing in elementary school, helps them identify, okay, this is what I know I can do to manage my big feelings, and have their go-to strategies. So as they grow older, they know, okay, I'm somebody who really gets my energy out through music. So maybe music is a big thing for them. And as they move on to middle school and high school, maybe they pursue that thing. It really helps kids build a sense of who they are, what they like to do, what their needs are, and how they can communicate that with other people. And in terms of child development in elementary school, the bottom half of stuff is also really impactful, right? Responsible decision making. There might not be some crazy big decisions that elementary students are making right now. They might be simpler decisions, like what they want to have for lunch or who they want to play with on the playground or things like that. But when we get them thinking early on about stopping and thinking before they act, considering how other people might be affected by their choices, again, we're building that empathy, that awareness for other people, that awareness of how their decisions might impact others. And when these skills are strengthened at a young age, we're really setting them up for success and decreasing those risk factors as they get older. They're going to be making more difficult decisions. And so if they've already built those practices in the classroom and at home about how to make those hard choices when they come up, we hope that they will be more equipped to make those choices, especially when parents aren't there, right? As your kids get older, they're going to make decisions when you're not around. And so strengthening these skills helps us decrease the risk factors and increase the chance that they're going to make a really good decision. And then the last two, social awareness and relationship skills. Again, all of these things are wonderful at a young age and can be simplified. And we'll talk about the ways that they're simplified as kids are younger and they build upon each other as they grow old. Something to think about, I know for myself, but you all as adults, is think about if these skills were given to you when you were younger. I know I didn't have a whole lot of them, and many of you probably did not as well. And thinking about the ways that maybe we wish that we had these when we were younger, because now as adults, right, some of us might be having to learn these skills. And if we had them when we were younger, we maybe might be in a better position to deal with our stress, to talk about our feelings with other people, and to keep healthy relationships. So when we learn these things as kids are growing and learning and becoming their beautiful, wonderful selves, we can really equip them to hold on to those values as they get older. So I hope that answers your question, because it's a wonderful one. And any other questions, please enter into the chat, because they make our conversation much more fruitful. Okay. So when we talk about what SEL looks like at home, like I mentioned before, really big thing is adult modeling. Social and emotional learning starts with adults. Before we can teach it to kids, we have to learn it and understand it ourselves. And for a lot of us, that might take a little bit of learning and a little bit of work. I know for me, I'm always working on my own SEL skills as I'm teaching them to other people. And so adult modeling is really key. So as we go through these, I want you to not only think about how they fit into your home, but how they fit into your personal life as a parent and as an adult, as an individual yourself, as well as your kids. Okay. So I'm going to go through each competency. We'll stop after each one and check in. But I'll offer a few examples and some ways that this might look like at home. And a lot of these ideas come from different resources online where experts in SEL, such as Castle, talk about ways that they can be incorporated. And I'll talk about what it looks like specifically for elementary school years. Okay, so first of all, self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is building up those skills to identify your feelings. And at home, this looks like talking about feelings every day, making it something normal that your family does at home. We talk about how we're feeling, and it's a safe space to share your emotions and explore how you are doing inside. So one way that can be built at home is building up feelings vocabulary, which can be done in a bunch of different ways. I know one of my favorite ways is there are some like little magnets that can go on the fridge that say, how are you feeling today? And you get to move your little person over what feeling you're feeling. But that could also look like just simply asking the question, like I asked of you all, how are you feeling right now? How are you feeling today? And encouraging some new feeling words so that young kids build up their vocabulary beyond just feeling good or bad. We want them to be able to really articulate how they're doing, right? And so some folks earlier said feeling lost. I mentioned feeling overwhelmed. Some people said feeling excited, feeling lucky, feeling blessed. These are all really awesome words that we can help teach kids, right? More than just good or bad, more than just happy or sad, more words to explain the whole huge range of feelings that humans feel. Also recognizing feelings in others. And one awesome way that I like to do this with the kids in my life and the kids that I teach through my job is through books, TV, and movies. We all consume, your kids probably consume some media, whether it's books, TV, movies, whatever you may do. And all of those characters are going to have feelings that pop up. So what a great time to stop and say, how do you think that person is feeling right now? Get your kid thinking about, okay, what is a feeling word that I know that I can use to explain this? For example, say you're watching Finding Nemo, you might say, how is Nemo's dad feeling right now? because Nemo is lost. Or how do you think Nemo might be feeling, right? This might bring up he's feeling scared. He's feeling anxious. He's feeling jittery. All of these words that we can add to that vocab. And in books as well, there's a lot of great moments to even say, how would you feel if that happened to you? So this is building up empathy, building up those skills of recognizing feelings in others and in yourself. Also, there's lots of chances to ask questions about feelings. Again, like I asked you earlier, how are you feeling? It's a very simple one, but at home, you can take it a step further. You can ask, how do you know that you're feeling that specific way? And you can share it back with your kids as well, right? Because we want to model to them that we also practice what we want them to practice. So this might look like saying, I am feeling super anxious right now. And I know because my heart is beating very fast, right? Or you might ask your kids, how do you know that you're feeling super excited? And they might say, because I want to jump up and down, or because I keep smiling. These are also ways to kind of get into those nonverbal cues of feelings, but also just to get them thinking about it more. And lastly, bringing in boundaries and limits at home is a really cool way to do this, especially when kids are young, helping them to understand that people set boundaries and limits around their feelings, and that they should be setting boundaries around their own feelings, and that you will too, right? And so an example that I think of is maybe if I was around kids and I was getting very frustrated, I might say, you know what? I am having a pretty hard time with some feelings of frustration. So I am going to walk away for a second and take some deep breaths and come back when I'm feeling a bit better. This is a way to explain to kids, I am feeling a certain way. And so I'm going to set a boundary really quick where I need a little bit of time to myself. And then I will be able to come back and help you out. That's one example. And the hope is that kids do this as well too, right? If they are having a heated argument with a sibling or something is not going right, they might say, you know what? I need to set a limit for myself. I need to walk away, or I need to go get help. Being able to recognize, right? Where are your limits? Where are your boundaries and things like that? Okay. Someone said, what if they chase after you when you try and step away? And this is a great comment because you all as parents, right, are uniquely positioned in this space where you might not always be able to step away. And so I would encourage you to think about different strategies where you can set boundaries within making sure that your kids' needs are met. So you might not actually be able to physically leave the space, but you could say, you know what? Mom needs to take 5 breaths really quick before I can help you out with this thing. And helping kids understand why you're doing that thing, right? So explaining to them, I am setting a limit right now because I am feeling hurt, or I'm setting a limit right now because you are hurting my body. And so I need to set a boundary. Explaining to kids, right, that we all get to set limits and boundaries, and they do too. They get to set limits with us as adults as well. And I want to open it up to you all. Are there ways that you have brought in these ideas of self-awareness in your home that has really worked? Or ways like Sarah mentioned that maybe you want to chat a little bit more through what that might look like? I'll leave a bit of space for anyone to add some comments. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to keep on rolling, but as always, add more questions as they come up. Okay, and so to expand on what Sarah is talking about here, we are going to take a look at self-management, and this is looking at ways that we cope with our big feelings as adults and ways that we can help our kids cope with big feelings as well. And so one way to build up this skill at home is by experimenting with different coping strategies, because home is a really cool place to try out different stuff, especially together as a family, whatever your family may look like. You might say, tonight we are all going to try mindfulness. Maybe you put on a video that walks you through a short mindfulness exercise that's age appropriate. See how that goes. If you don't like that, we are all going to go on a walk tonight and see if that helps us get out some of our energy or some of our big feelings. Maybe you try journaling if your kids are old enough, or maybe you try expressing through art or music or getting involved in different sports or activities or theater. These are ways that we can help young kids figure out what is their coping strategy. What do they do to relieve stress? What do they do when they've got a lot of feelings inside that they need to get out? And we can create a safe space at home. So you all have the unique opportunity to have a safe space at home where it's safe for kids to recognize how they're feeling and then manage those feelings. And I would encourage you to even set up a space at home that is designated for working through big feelings. And that will be different from timeout, right? We don't want kids to think that they are in trouble. What we want them to think is that at home, I have space to have feelings like anger, frustration, anxiety, and I have space to deal with them, and I have tools to deal with them as well. We can also, at home, identify coping strategies that already work for your kids. I am definitely sure that you all have strategies that are your go-to. And so I would encourage you to name them and identify them and name them as coping strategies. Or an age-appropriate way to explain it would just be things we do to handle our big feelings. I think this is a really cool one because it gets us thinking, okay, what do I do when I get super stressed? Or what is my kid's go-to thing? What have they been doing? Maybe they're very energetic and need to run around a bit to get out their anger. Or maybe there's someone who needs some quiet time, right? You all are the experts of your own home. And so identifying what works for your kids. And then establishing those go-to things, right? Talking about what is your go-to coping strategy at home. That might be different from on the bus, right? Maybe on the bus, their go-to strategy is breathing, but at home, their go-to strategy is yelling into a pillow. And they might look different in different spaces. Okay, let me take a look at the chat here. Mary says, I actually tend to practice this type of strategies at home. I'm wondering, in the self-management space, how do you see this play out with kids who feel big feelings all the time, or even for small things? Over time, does it start to sink in? Thank you, Mary, for offering this. We did a program a little bit earlier on last month about helping kids deal with big feelings. And a lot of times this looked like what we talked about, being able to identify those feelings and identify those coping strategies. However, sometimes we see it show up that kids have big feelings almost all of the time, and maybe over very small things. And so I want to encourage you that if you are establishing some coping strategies and talking through these skills with your child or with a child in your life, and maybe it still seems like they're having trouble with daily tasks or managing those things, I would really encourage you to seek out other resources. And you can always email me or call CVC if you are wondering what local resources are available to you, because sometimes kids really do need a little bit extra help dealing with those big feelings. I know I did when I was a kid. And so things like counseling or outside help, maybe from school or other professionals, is definitely another great option. Because like I said, I know I had a lot of big feelings as a kid that my parents just could not help me with. And so that's okay. You know, we love them and we want them to be able to handle their big feelings. And so that's a great question. And Mallory says, we have external help from our son. It's made a world of a difference. Thank you for sharing that. It's wonderful to normalize that, right? It's okay. Kids have a lot of big feelings, but if it's getting in the way of daily life, we want to find ways to make that easier on them and on you all as parents. Okay, I am running out of time here quick, so we will keep on going. Responsible decision-making skills can be built at home by talking to little ones or older ones about goal setting. And that might even be very small goals, but helping them understand, okay, if you have this goal, what are some decisions or choices you can make that can help you reach that goal? For example, maybe your child says, oh man, I really want the new Nintendo Switch, right? You can say, okay, this is your goal. What are we going to need to get there? And what choices might you need to make in order to get there? Maybe you are someone who has different expectations for your child every day, or chores or acts or things that you want them to do. Talk about how those small choices might lead them to more positive outcomes. And not just talking about material things, right? Talking about, okay, if you want to someday be an astronaut, what are some things that we need to do to get you there? What are some choices that you can make now that will help you get there, right? So maybe that's choosing some books about space at the library. And as they get older, right, you see where I'm going. Just getting them thinking about different choices they can make and decisions, and sharing different tools for them to make as well. I know I'm a big fan of the pros and cons list, but I never would have known about it unless my mom sat me down and said, this is what it looks like. It looks like this T. Here's what you're going to do. And I'm sure that you all have other strategies that maybe you use to make big decisions that you can pass along to your kids. Okay. You can also talk through potential outcomes. And I think that this one is really awesome when we talk with kids about positive outcomes that can come from their decisions. So we want them to see that when they make responsible decisions that care for themselves and for other people, positive things happen. So focusing on those positive outcomes that can come from their decisions. We can also identify solutions, help workshop through problems. What's going on? What do you think a possible solution to this problem would be? And push your kid to get there on their own, right? Offer some of that wonderful parental guidance that I know you all do, but letting them try and get to that conclusion on their own builds up those skills. Lastly, reflect on your personal role, evaluate impacts. This goes back to what I already said. Think about, how might this choice impact your friends? How might this choice impact your family? Again, builds that empathy, builds that critical thinking, especially when kids are young, gets them thinking, okay, if I do this, what might happen? What positive outcomes could come from this? And Stacy offers in the chat, I work with a counselor from our formal elementary school. She met with my daughter and helped her work through some big feelings. I'm hoping that UE has this available as well. Thank you, Stacy. And maybe Michelle can connect with you and let you know what resources are available at Unionville. But what a wonderful example, and thank you for sharing, of ways that sometimes we need other people to help us and our kids with these big feelings. And we might have big feelings ourselves. And so it's very nice to have that support. Okay. So we have two more here. And if you need to hop off at any point, please feel free to do so. I won't be offended. You all are busy, and so please take care of yourself and your needs. Okay. Building relationship skills at home looks like practicing consent and boundaries. And we talk a lot about what consent looks like for elementary school students. And really what it looks like is every decision we make and choice we make involves consent, right? And so thinking about the way that at home, maybe you offer your child different choices where they can choose what they would like and what they wouldn't like. But this also involves getting them thinking about how they ask other people for consent, right? Asking your family members if they would like a hug, asking if they want help, or you asking them if you can help them, right? Anytime that we can ask our kids and they can ask us back and we can offer that exchange of agreement is wonderful. And of course, there are going to be those moments where maybe we don't have a lot of option for choice, right? Your child might say, I don't want to go to school. And that might be a moment where you say, well, there isn't a huge amount of choice there, but there are those little moments when we can help our kids understand, okay, we ask our friends before we get close to them. Especially now, kids really understand consent when it comes to COVID, right? So getting them thinking, we have to ask our friends if they're okay with us giving them a high five, or if they were okay with us giving them a hug, or if they would rather just wave from far away. Also, discuss examples of relationships. Again, this might come up in books, TV, or movies, or in your own life. You can say, why is Sally your best friend? And they might say, because she's awesome. And you can say, well, what is it about her that makes her so awesome? What are some of those qualities that you really like? Getting your kids thinking about, oh, this person's my friend because they support me, they're kind to me, they respect me. Getting them thinking about those characteristics that they like in their relationships, friendships. We can also model healthy conflict resolution at home, which isn't always easy. Family dynamics can be tough. And so modeling those moments when we can of active listening, of resolving conflict in a calm and healthy way can be super, super impactful and will hopefully transfer on to young ones. Also, offer opportunities for your child to be in relationship with others, which I'm definitely sure you are already doing. Encourage active listening, like I mentioned, and encourage seeking and offering help when needed. When kids are learning and growing, especially as folks mentioned earlier, what that looks like in childhood development in early elementary school ages is just getting them used to having relationships with different folks in their life, being kind to others, treating others with empathy, thinking about ways that we can teach them consent, respecting other people's bodies, their time, their space. These are all really good ways for us to build up those relationship skills. We have one more, which is social awareness. Again, it's 7:30. So if you have to leave, you're more than welcome to do so. And somebody mentioned, love the work that Mrs. Toner has done in our child's class through kindergarten, pre-first, and first grade so far. The teachers were so supportive of the same strategies. That's wonderful. And I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, John, for sharing. And this is a really good example of ways that our kids might, well, your kids might come home. I say our kids because I just care about all kids and want them to all be happy and safe as well. But anyways, your kids might come home and talk about learning about these different strategies of relationship skills. And that's when you can reinforce those things at home and say, that's awesome. How can we incorporate that within our home family structure? And Mrs. Toner is a school counselor. That's really great. So what a great example of ways that schools can support things and we can reinforce them at home and they feed into each other. And we can build a community where social and emotional learning is really valued. Okay, last one, here we go. Social awareness. Social awareness is, I think, a really fun one to think about, especially when kids are little, ways that we can broaden their curiosity for different cultures and their empathy for people who are different than them. We can talk, read, and learn about different cultures. There's so many awesome movies and TV shows and books where we can choose intentionally things that offer a diverse range of people so that kids are exposed to a lot of different folks, and so that they learn that everyone is welcome, everyone is loved, and can start to understand that different cultures are a fun part of our world that we should love. Also, acknowledging different holidays, right? So talking about your own traditions and saying, some people don't celebrate Christmas. Some people celebrate this and that, and this is why. Or saying, in our home, we have this practice of this, and it's very important to us. But other friends or people might have different practices. It's a cool way to get them thinking about that. Also, to the question in the comments, will there be printable versions and other resources? I have a resource sheet that I will send in the chat at the end of this, but I'll also send it to Michelle so that she can send it out to you all with a lot of different resources we compiled for you all. Okay. Gratitude practice is also a part of social awareness, right? Getting kids to, and yourselves, I try and do this myself as well. Thinking about things you're grateful for. What are the things in your life that you're really happy to have that maybe others don't have, right? Starting to think about what can we be grateful for? What can we share thanks for? And of course, seeking out learning opportunities. This might look a little bit different because different things are open or closed, but museums and other resources like museums offer a lot of different ways to learn about new cultures and things, whether it's in person or online. Trying different foods or restaurants, thinking about bringing kids and exposing them to different foods and talking about what cultures they come from. Even if they say, I really don't like this food, you can say, that's okay. But other people love it, and that's really great. And community activities. Sometimes communities will open their doors to other folks to come in and experience with them. And these are really great opportunities to tag along little ones and get them thinking and seeing different cultures, so that as they grow, they will see different folks, different people, and they'll be able to appreciate that, because when they were younger, they learned how awesome different people are. And John mentioned another awesome resource we learned about is a book called How to Talk to Kids. Oh, sorry. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Kids Will Talk. Woo, I'm going to write that one down. They have different versions for little kids and teens too. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I love all the different resources. So I hope that that wasn't too overwhelming. I know that we, you know, I hope I didn't rush through it too much at the end, but want to respect all of your time. But to recap, you all do this stuff already. So build upon what you already have and what works for you. SEL is an ongoing process, whether you're just hearing about it tonight or you've heard about it before. It's a process that involves a lot of different people. You're not in this alone, right? I care about the social and emotional well-being of your kids. So do you. So does your community and your school. So there are a lot of people who are in on this. And remember that it can be small actions, right? Small intentional acts can be really impactful. And so you don't have to do everything we talked about tonight, but if you even just start asking your kids, how are you feeling every day? Then I did my job tonight. And just know that your modeling is very important and that together we're creating a healthier and safer community. Thanks, Mary. I'm glad that you're excited about it. Before we leave, I will mention I will stick around for questions, comments, and if people want to hang out and chat. I'm also going to put in the chat a link to a sheet full of resources, and my coworker Anna put this together, and it is really, really wonderful. I'm very thankful that let me find this link. I'm very thankful that she put this together for you all, and I think that you will enjoy it. It has a few lists for books if you're interested in some more books for yourselves or for your kids. Okay, here we go. But also different articles if you want to learn more about SEL. Again, I can send these to Michelle and she can send them out as well. But it's just a bunch of resources for you if you want extra ideas on this. But also, I have like 10 screens up. But up here is my email. And so if you ever want to email me just to chat about stuff or to run something by me or whatever you might need, I would encourage you to do so. I love hearing from folks. So you're more than welcome to email me. And thank you all for your time. I really appreciate being here with you all. What else do I need to remember to tell you? CVC, where I'm from, does free programs monthly. And recently, most of them have been geared towards adults and parents. And so if you're interested in that, I would also encourage you to sign up for our newsletter. I am actually the person who runs the newsletter at CVC. And sometimes it's a bunch of resources and other times it's invitations to different programs we are doing. And so you might check those out and want to join them sometime. I would love to have you. And let me copy that link. Okay. Oh man.
Thank you so much, Grace. Yeah, feel free to share all that with me and share the recording. I know sometimes the recording takes a while to download, so it's fine if you don't get that to me till tomorrow or whenever it's done.
Tomorrow, I will have that to you.
Thank you so
and
much.
Thank you all for joining me. Yeah, I'll stick around for questions, but if you've got to run, thank you so much for coming. Really enjoyed my time with you all.